All righty, we're back with Perry Stein and Christy Greenberg. Christy, I understand the judge will give Trump an opportunity to speak before sentencing. Would this sort of rhetoric in front of the judge help him that we just heard, and he just chose not to testify? Do you think his lawyers would advise him to speak this time?
So I think it depends on what he will say. Usually at sentencing, when you have a defendant who continues to maintain his innocence, it's unlikely that you're going to hear that defendant then accept responsibility and, show any remorse, because they intend to still appeal their verdict, and they're saying that they're innocent. So it would be, I would be surprised if that's something that you heard from Donald Trump here. And generally, a judge is not necessarily going to penalize a defendant for exercising his right to contest the facts and to take his case to trial. But where you're violating the gag order, where you are continuing to attack jurors, where you attack family members of, the prosecutors or the judge, where you attack the staff of the prosecution team. Alvin Bragg and the judge are removed from that gag order, but when you attack those other categories, when you continue to attack witnesses, the gag order is still in place as to those individuals. And any more violations of the court order, yes, the judge will absolutely take that into account. That is blatant disregard for the law, and the judge is looking to promote respect for the law in imposing his sentence. So I think as the gag order is still in place, you're going to look for, I think, Trump's speech to really try to not incur additional violations, because that absolutely could come back to bite him at sentencing.
Well, Trump and his legal team have also been vowing to appeal. Just today, here's Trump's attorney, Will Scharf, and what he said.
We're going to vigorously challenge this case on appeal. I don't think President Trump is going to end up being subject to any sentence whatsoever. And we look forward to getting this case into the next court and taking this again all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary to vindicate President Trump's rights.
Now, Perry, that attorney had several reasons that he iterated during that interview. What grounds do you believe here that they will use that will have the best case for an appeal, if any?
Right. Well, remember during the trial when Stormy Daniels testified, Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer, actually called for a mistrial right there. And I think a lot of people were surprised at how much Stormy Daniels was allowed to testify, right? She talked about in detail this sexual encounter, that the language that she used could have been interpreted by the jury as that this was an unwanted sexual encounter. And Trump could argue, this has been happened before, right? We saw it with Harvey Weinstein. It's not an exact parallel by any means, but they said, hey, you allowed the jury to hear too much. You tainted their opinion on our defendant with details that did not have relevance to the crime at hand. So that is one possibility. And we heard right there that we heard some of the arguments already laid out from them when Todd Blanche asked for a mistrial in court. Obviously, it was denied then, but that could be one grounds for appeal.
So we've been hearing how Stormy's speaking out today, Christy, and we've been sharing some of that sound. Does the fact she's doing an interview at this point and or the nature of what she's saying potentially help the defense team when it comes to appeal?
So based on what I had heard that she said, and admittedly I have not listened to her whole interview, but based on the snippets that I heard, it didn't sound like she was saying anything very different than what she had said prior to taking the stand. She's been and she was cross-examined pretty extensively about the fact that she does not like Donald Trump, that she wanted to see him be put in jail. None of that is necessarily new. So as long as she doesn't say anything, I think, that is contradicting her testimony in any way, then I'm not sure that this is necessarily going to disturb the verdict in any way.
And Perry, how might this case make it to the Supreme Court, as Will Scharf was just saying? Is there a path? How long would that take if there is? And how the specter of the court makeup, 3 Trump appointments, bring it into question a potential outcome there?
Right. I mean, this is a state case, right? So it's much more likely to make it to the highest court or the highest court in New York. And so I think we'll see it play through the New York appeals system rather than the federal appeals system. I mean, currently, right, he is bringing up this question of presidential immunity in the Supreme Court, which in theory could have some implications on the state case in Georgia. So it is possible that, right, he I guess, find some presidential executive power issue here. But these charges are, no one is suggesting these were things that he did within his presidential powers, right? So like they are in Florida or like they are in the DC federal cases. Mm-hmm. So I would expect this case to play out through the New York court system.
Perry Stein and Christy Greenberg, thank you so much on the Sunday. Go and have a good one.